video tutorial explains how to set up and operate the HIPAA RealTime Server. Once the software is downloaded and installed, I will see the HIPAA RealTime Server icon on my desktop. I click it, and it now tells me that the RealTime Server is not yet set up and that I have the option to do it now. So I click Yes, and I see the configuration screen. We can now fill in the fields. In Server ID, we take out Test and add HIPAAsuite here. Instead of localhost, I put my external IP address. Next, I then choose the port number at which the RealTime server is listening for a secure connection. Then I click on the autofill button, and all 4 of my server endpoints will be populated. What are server endpoints? These are the addresses that you give to your providers and trading partners that let them know this is the endpoint or address where the HIPAA RealTime server is waiting to be contacted. We have 4 endpoints for the different protocols that the HIPAA RealTime server serves. The core standards provide for 2 separate communications methods, which the RealTime server both supports. One is SOAP, which stands for Service-Oriented Architecture Protocol, and the other is XML-based. MIME, which stands for Multi-Purpose Internet Mail Extensions, and is derived from the email protocol. The HIPAA RealTime server has one address for the real-time SOAP endpoint, and one for the batch SOAP endpoint, which we call MTOM. There are also MIME server addresses for real-time and batch mode. The MIME server's endpoints are usually the same, while SOAP requires 2 distinct endpoints. We can also create unsecured endpoints at a different port, as it is easier to debug with trading partners with an unsecured connection. Please be aware not to transmit private medical information through the unsecured channel, as this violates HIPAA regulations. The next step is the server configuration. Since the HIPAA RealTime server deals with private medical information, it needs to be secured. This is done with HTTPS, the Secure Hypertext Terminal Protocol, which encrypts the communication between a client, a web browser, or an application, and our server, and thus makes it unintelligent to anyone listening. To accomplish this secure transmission, we need a certificate. Certificates are normally purchased from a trusted certificate authority, such as VeriSign, Falta, and others. Once the certificate is installed in the server, which we don't explain here, we can link the certificate to the RealTime server as shown here. Now that the certificate is selected, I need to bind it to the port that I selected, in this case 8010. I click on the Bind button, and I see a confirmation that it is successful. Next, I need an inbox directory so that all the files that we will receive as payload will be properly stored in a central location where the RealTime server and the other HIPAAsuite programs which are connected to it can find and exchange files. Next, I want to run the server in debug mode so I can see what is going on. If I don't run the server in debug mode, then we don't see anything as the server is running in the background and only writes its activities to the log. But when we run the server in debug mode, we will see a console window that displays all the activities that are taking place on the server. Finally, I have to configure a database connection. The HIPAA RealTime Server works in conjunction with a database that is then shared with the other HIPAAsuite products. Here I choose my database type. In this case, I use SQL Server with integrated security. I type in the server address here and I also select the database that contains my information. Since I am using integrated security, I don't need to fill in the username and password. I then test the connection and can see that it checks out fine. Now I need to connect the two applications for eligibility and claim status that are part of the initial core Phase 2 requirements. The HIPAA RealTime Server can also carry payloads of any other HIPAA transaction and interact with the appropriate HIPAAsuite application. We now go to the Program Files directory, then HIPAAsuite directory, and underneath we have the HIPAA Eligibility Responder to respond to eligibility requests, and the HIPAA Claim Status Responder for the claim status requests. Now I click Save. You can see here a message that shows the real-time server settings are saved successfully and that the server has to restart. I click OK. Now the server is running. Earlier, I talked about the debug mode. What we can see here is a window that tells us the secure host is open at this address 8010, and the test host is open at the port 8011. We also see here that the service is ready in debug mode. Now, if providers send in secure messages, we will see them appear in this window. Here we see requests coming in, and within a split second, the response is then sent back. In debug mode, you can actually see the server receiving SOAP and MIME messages and generating responses. As you can see, employing the HIPAA RealTime Server allows you to easily be core Phase 2 compliant and to ensure real-time service to your providers whose software systems will also increasingly utilize these real-time protocols. Employing the HIPAA RealTime Server does save time and call center staff on the payer side. Also, on the provider side, it is very efficient to receive a response to an eligibility or claim status request within a few seconds, instead of waiting on phone calls or faxes. In the coming years, this real-time technology will take over interactions between payers and insurance companies on one side and providers and hospitals on the other. We hope that this tutorial was useful to demonstrate the capabilities and ease of setup of the HIPAA RealTime Server. There is more setup work to be done, however, which we don't touch on in this tutorial. You need to have your membership and their benefits in the HIPAA Eligibility Responder stored so that the program can find your members and return the appropriate information. And the HIPAA Claim Status Responder needs to have access to your claims so that it can return the status. This will be covered in different video tutorials under those software products. This concludes the video tutorial on setting up the HIPAA RealTime Server.